used to think that the brain was just as it is, and that's not the case. You can't generalize, and that's the issue with science. One of the big things that I talk about, a lot of people don't love to hear it, is
Anne-Sophie Fleury is one of the leading voices in neuroscience, featured in Vogue and The Times.
we think that science is the ultimate truth. People come to meditation because they are stressed. These are not practices that are just going to make you relaxed.
What do you think the role is that phones and the digital landscape play in our brain health?
In this little box on my phone, there's a never-ending supply of dopamine hits.
She is on this podcast discussing practical ways to support a dysregulated nervous system, how to manage stress effectively, and even look after your brain health in later life. The concept about the brain, I really, really, really wish more people knew about. If not, everyone should know about it. If you haven't already, please could you just take one moment to leave a 5-star review if you're listening on Spotify, or subscribing if you are watching on YouTube. It is a huge, huge, huge help to the podcast and means that we can keep going, bringing you more and more guests that can help you live a happier, healthier life. Thank you. We have had so many community questions about looking after your brain, resilience, anxiety, burnout, all of that wonderful stuff. And I cannot wait to come on to all of the actionable tips that you can give the audience. But the first thing I want to talk about is, and I haven't seen you speak much about this online, is I believe you grew up in Switzerland. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that was like for young Anne-Sophie and how on earth you then ended up being a neuroscientist in London?
Yeah, I was wondering what you were going to say, because I was like, oh God, what have I not spoken about online? I feel like it's really not that fascinating. Switzerland is a very calm, quiet, safe place. Grew up there until I was around 14, then I left. So I went to boarding school for a year when I was 14, and then lived on my own by the time that I was 15, 16, 17, finished school, and then came to London. And Switzerland was, I can't complain. It's really beautiful, and everywhere I go, like now I don't feel like it really compares. London is, quite different, especially this time of year.
I'm from North Wales and I was just home last week, and my lungs were extremely grateful to be home. And I'd imagine Switzerland is similar in terms of, Switzerland, very clean.
Yeah,
a lot
very
cleaner.
clean. Trains on time. I'm a very scientific person, but then there's some, especially with the kind of topics that I talk about, so like meditation and all of that, there is a side that you can get to which is like quite spiritual.
Yeah.
So I, sometimes like dab in and out of those things, but I don't know if you hear people talk about that they get different kinds of energy from some of the different like elements. So people really like thrive when they're by the ocean or in the mountains. I really get that sense with the mountains in Switzerland. As soon as I'm there, like I don't know, it's like this life force, but then also like a very calm, strong energy. And I really miss that.
I completely, because I grew up by the sea and the mountains, and I completely get that. It's that sense of calm. And it's interesting you say about being a woman of science, but having those elements of woo-woo, because I can completely relate to that. And I think I maybe always felt a little bit guilty about those elements of woo-woo I love to keep in my life, the energies, the manifestation, until I met this professor who I really, 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 really admire. And she's super critical about women's health information online. She's a really, really, really vocal critic, but she is obsessed with the benefits of drumming for women on women's health. And she openly says there's not much evidence to back that. But from a really spiritual, sense, actually that really validated, I don't know, we'll come on to how you navigate the world of social media and science and those spiritual elements of brain health. But it's just a really interesting point to come on to, that it took the guilt away for me.
It's something that I come back to quite a lot, because I try to, when I give advice or when people come to me and they want to know actionable steps, like I keep it very much to what's been scientifically proven and what the data shows. But then on a personal level, of course, there are things that, aren't necessarily scientifically valid, or maybe they just haven't been tested rigorously yet. But if they make somebody feel good, just, why not indulge in that? And also, we think that science is the ultimate truth. And that's not the case. You're still looking at averages. You're still looking at a small group or a subset of people, and then what you find is based on the median or the average, right? So there are people that fall outside of that spectrum of results, and that doesn't mean that it's not valid for them. But a scientific paper might prove that you need to do, for example, 2 minutes of ice bathing at minus whatever degrees. Some podcasters like the Andrew Hubermans of the world, they love to like put everything into scientific protocols so that you can take what the science says and then you can follow the specific protocol. And then people follow that because it's, this is based on the average. And they don't realize that there will probably be a whole group of people who didn't perform well at all with that same protocol, where it would actually gave them negative effects or no effects at all whatsoever. And they might physiologically or on a biological level represent that demographic more. So I think you need to take everything with a bit of a grain of salt and remember that, just because it's been published in a scientific paper doesn't mean it's a good study, doesn't mean that it'll apply to you. And I think that with everything. And then, of course, like placebo is a thing, right? So one of the things that I also talk about a lot is supplementation, especially for things like sleep. And some of the science on that is that people think that magnesium is like the best supplement for sleep. And some of the studies don't actually prove that. But I have a lot of friends who swear by magnesium, and then they hear me talk on podcasts about what the science actually says about it. And they're like, well, like it really, it really helps me. Like I sleep, keep taking it then. Like if you can afford to take it, if it really helps you, like take it. Who am I to tell you that you can't do something just because the science says that it's, probably not.
It's being really, really honest with people, which I don't think that podcasts like Huberman often do, because it's not sexy to be honest and caveat things,
Yeah.
It's sexier to give an absolute truth than a nuanced approach. And actually, as long as you're honest about this does or does not have strong scientific data and honest about the risks, then I think empowering people to make those decisions themselves is so, so, so important. I can already tell this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful chat, and there's so much that I really want to cover. But first, I really want to understand what it was that made you fascinated with the brain and led you, and especially in this world where we all seem to be so much more stressed, we all seem to be a lot less focused, why you are so passionate about sharing that knowledge with people.
Yeah, there are a number of reasons, but I think predominantly it's that I didn't always take care of my brain in the best way. I definitely struggled with my mental health when I was younger. I very much felt like I am just at the mercy of my brain. Things are just going to keep happening to me. I'm just going to keep, having to like trudge along in life, and it'll be one thing after the next, after the next. It's just, you overcome one thing and then it's the next obstacle. And that's kind of how I approached things for a long time. And it wasn't until a lot later, and by then I'd already studied psychology as an undergraduate. I'm well into my master's doing experimental neuroscience. So I have quite a good understanding of the brain at this point. And I still didn't realize that I am actually in charge of how my brain thinks and how I feel and how I emotionally relate to the things that happen to me. We stop learning about the brain at a very early age. Even in school, you don't really learn too much. You learn a bit about neurons and different parts of the brain and different structures and different functions, but it's very limited. So for me to go into higher education and have, starting my third degree about the brain, still not understanding that I can actually do something to change how my brain is wired, just change the structure, change how I think, how I feel, how I approach life. Like I just didn't, I don't know. You're never told. None of my professors, none of my supervisors. And so I feel like, with that level of knowledge, still being so blind to that, I felt like this is something that people should probably be a little bit more aware of.
The concept about the brain, I really, really, really wish more people knew about, if not everyone should know about it, is neuroplasticity, because I think that is just, such an incredible, powerful tool that could be used to our advantage, but also used to our detriment, that people just don't understand. And as someone who's not a neuroscientist, whenever I try and explain it, I probably butcher it. So I'm going to ask you to try and explain it and the powers that it can give people. But first, we had so many community questions about how we can regulate stress and anxiety, and also how to know if you have irregular levels of stress and anxiety. That's quite a big question. Any tips that you've got?
One of the big things that I talk about, and a lot of people don't love to hear it, is mindfulness. And I think that's because mindfulness seems like a bit of this woo-woo spiritual practice, or it has religious ties or spiritual ties or whatever. But it's really just a simple thing. It's just becoming a bit more mindful of how you feel, how your body feels, how it responds to different situations, stressors, triggers. You can't change anything without first being aware that something's happening. The signs of a dysregulated nervous system, which is essentially what all of this is, like stress, burnout, they're very simple physiological things that you can look out for. But most of the time, we're too distracted to be aware of them. It could be that your heart rate is up a little bit. It could be that your pupils are dilated, or there's just a change in the way that you're breathing. Maybe you're breathing a little bit more into your chest versus your belly. That can be a sign that something's up. We often don't really notice it until it's gotten to a point where there's almost like a physical ailment, like where we're almost sick, or it's so disruptive that, you know, our heart rate's fluttering so much that you can't breathe, or you have to sit down, or you feel a bit dizzy. And these are all things that happen at a much lower level at the beginning of, you know, when you're feeling stressed. The more that you can train yourself to just check in with your body, the more you'll be able to notice it at the lower level and then kind of do something about it, so that you're not getting to the point where your life is now disrupted, or you can't leave the house because you're so anxious, or because you're so stressed, or because you've lost your keys and you're, you know, freaking out about everything. So it's just moments of checking in. How am I breathing? Maybe I need to take a little deep breath. Where am I in my space? Like, what's around me? Even just becoming aware of your surroundings. Just like take a moment to notice the quality of the light in the room today. Just taking a few moments to ground yourself, I think is it's mindfulness. Mindfulness isn't always like this meditation or thing where you need to sit cross-legged in your yoga clothes or whatever. It's just noticing what's happening in your body, and then just taking a moment to like reset.
Literally, as soon as you said, oh, maybe you're breathing a little bit more into your chest, I literally felt myself take a big breath from my, you know, into my tummy, and immediately felt myself calm down. Like, we're recording for 8 hours here, and like it is really today, and it's go, and it's such a simple thing that is so cheap. Like, anyone can do it. Anyone is able to just take that moment. It can feel quite alien in this world that is so go. So someone who has never practiced mindfulness before, and maybe feels like they don't quite understand it, what would you suggest as the first step that they take?
I think the easiest thing to tell people is to check in with their senses. So obviously the most overwhelming sense that we have is the sense of sight. It governs everything. So just take a moment to look around you, especially if you're in a place that you're always in, you're always working for the same. You don't actually take time to notice anything new around you in your space, in your environment. And I find that often, I was doing this, I was on the plane yesterday, and instead of putting on a movie or just like listening to music, I just took a moment to sit down and just look around the plane and notice the quality of the light, the way that, you know, the light was reflecting on this like a blue sticker, and that made the blue look really vivid. And then I was looking at how the lights had been installed in the plane, just like almost like critically analyzing your space. What I always think about is I want to take in as much visual information and really pay attention to little details, so that if I close my eyes and I was asked to draw the scene, that I had things that I could remember. Because I think a lot of the time we just move through life and we're not really paying attention to those things. So if I'm here for the first time now, you ask me to close my eyes and tell you what's in the room, like it would kind of be quite difficult, actually. I would just be like, okay, I know that there's 2 chairs and there's 2 microphones and there's some plants, but I don't know what color the rug is. I don't know the pattern of the rug, because I haven't registered it. I haven't taken that moment to just pay a little bit of attention. And so mindfulness is really just the act of paying attention. And so you can do that, of course, with your vision. You can do that then with the sounds around you. I think that's also a really nice practice that nobody does, is take a moment, close your eyes, and maybe the listeners can do this just for a second. Close your eyes, pause the podcast for, just half a minute or so, and see what you can hear in your surroundings. And you can start from any sounds that you hear really close to you, and then slowly start to move out and see, can you actually hear anything in the rooms next door? Can you hear anything from outside the window? And how far can you extend your awareness of the sounds that are in your space? Because again, we don't really pay attention to those things, but you might notice that you can hear the humming of your radiator. You might notice that you can hear children playing outside. And it just gives you a sense of knowing where you are and what's happening. When you start doing that regularly, it's really like, it just also makes you a little bit of a happier person, because the things that you're paying attention to are the things that are happening in your immediate environment. As long as you're focused on those things, you're not then thinking about all the things that you still need to do on your to-do list, things that you're anxious about from your future, from your past, right? You're not lost in thoughts in your head. You're just very present and just trying to become aware of what's going on in your surroundings.
That's really, really interesting, because I think the only time I think I do that is on the tube when there is no signal. And when you say, going through everything, because I'm so bored.
Yeah.
I'm so bored.
Yeah.
And I'm, those adverts on the tube, I know all of them word by word, because I'm so bored. And I've got this, quite a hyperactive mind, and I will literally go through every word on each ad, go through every station on the tube map. And then I saw that they're bringing 5G onto the tube. And my first thought was, okay, and my initial thought was, that is the only time I cannot go on my phone, or my phone is more boring than the world around me. Yeah. The only time. And now I think, God, that would be so handy, because I can work on the tube. But that initial reaction was, I'm really going to miss out on that me time,
Yeah. Because we don't do it unless we're forced to.
Exactly. What do you think the role is that phones and the digital landscape play in our brain health, and what tips would you give for people to navigate that and get themselves, have that moment of mindfulness when there's a whole world that exists on their phone that is ready to entertain them and stop you from ever possibly being bored?
One of the things that I think about is that on my phone, in this little box on my phone, there's a never-ending supply of dopamine hits and people waiting to entertain me or to teach me something. I can read an article, I can watch TikToks, I can see all the trends. That's all there. That will always be there, and I will never get through all of it. And I think sometimes we used to have a feed that you could get to the end of. Right, on Instagram, you used to go to the end, you've seen all your friends' pictures, and that's it. And that's just not the case anymore. You will never be done with the internet. You will never have seen everything that's on the internet. And so I do try to remind myself of that when I'm in a place where I could easily just go on my phone and get lost in all the reels and all the content. And I just remind myself, that's always going to be there. I don't need to use up all the time that I have now if I'm waiting 20 minutes for my friend to arrive to dinner. I don't need to use those 20 minutes to catch up on everything. I'm never going to be caught up to anything. So I just, make an effort to just look around me. And I think a part of the problem is that people hate to look like they have nothing to do. Yeah. So you hate to be sitting around. That's also why I started smoking at an early age.
So you had something with your hands.
I'm busy, I'm smoking, I'm at the bus stop, I'm not waiting for the bus like a loser. I'm just smoking my cigarette, I'm cool. Yeah. And I think there's something even cooler about just reclaiming the fact that I can happily just exist in the world with nothing to do, just twiddling my thumbs, and I'll be perfectly happy. There's always something to look at, always something to contemplate. And actually, when you create that space in your mind to just look around and see what's around you, wait for your friend and not be caught up in your phone, not be doing emails, not be doing whatever, just using that time to be present, it also allows so much room for new thoughts and feelings and emotions and ideas to come up. Because when you're in your algorithm and you're scrolling, maybe something somebody says might give you an idea for your next reel or your next piece of content or something that you'd like to write about or a piece of art that you want to create. but your best ideas and your most original ideas will come from within you, and you need that time for those to come up and for you to contemplate them, even for you to have the idea and then develop it. And you can't do that while you're also scrolling on your phone.
No. And I remember quite vividly when I was like 15 or 14, I went on a family holiday, and for that family holiday, I didn't have the 3G on my phone. Yeah. And
Awful.
and I was so not used to it at that point. And I remember I got to the end of the family holiday and I realised that my thinking had gone from being surface level thinking, where if I came up against something, an obstacle where I didn't, in my thought process, I would just go on my phone because that was the lazy thing to do. I was like, oh, I'll just go on my phone. Where I didn't have that option, my thinking just became so much more deeper and like complex. And I had that realization when I was 15. Did it stop me going on my phone? No. I'm going to ask you to explain neuroplasticity after this next section, which we have called buy or bye-bye. Basically, I'm going to show you some products.
Okay, I love this.
I'm going to show you some products and you can say whether you would buy it or bye-bye.
Okay.
Like you wouldn't buy it.
Okay.
First, we have a stress ball.
Okay.
What, buy or bye-bye?
Let's see. I would say, yeah, bye.
Bye.
Because sometimes you do just need to like fidget around a little bit. And I would rather somebody fidget around with this and contemplate ideas in their head, or if they're stressed, play around with something, have something tactile to focus on, versus trying to find a supplement that's going to like boost your memory and your brain health, or scroll on your phone, right? Like I think anything that you can touch with your hands, this could be a mindful practice, you know? Like, even as I have it here, like the first thing I noticed was like the exact color of blue. I was trying to figure out, is this from a specific like football club? Then I noticed the weight, and when you threw it over, I was kind of predicting. I was like, how heavy is it going to be? How squishy is it going to be? And like those are really nice, boring, mindful thoughts to have. Those are thoughts where I'm not stressing about something. I'm just contemplating the object in front of me. I think it's a good thing. Bye.
Nice. Love that. I'm glad you mentioned supplements, because I'm going to add on an extra buy or bye-bye that we don't actually have, but I'm going to add it on till at the end. Next. Aroma.
Can I?
Yeah. Aromatherapy.
You know what? I would say bye.
Nice.
I have one as well. I think anything that you can do to change your environment, like if let's say you're stressed, one thing that you can do is like switch off the big lights, turn on the little lights, make it cozy, change the environment in whatever ways that you can. Again, this is something where you can really rely on your senses. So you can put on a scent that you really like. That's going to make you feel calm and relaxed. It's kind of like, there's a reason why spas do all of this stuff, right? And I'm not saying it's going to cure you, or if you're burnt out because your job is too demanding and you don't get any time off. Aromatherapy is not going to fix that, but it can help you create a divide in your day-to-day and create some mindful moments, some stillness, just a change of scenery. I think with these things, people say like, oh, this study showed that you can boost your memory by 94% by using aromatherapy diffusers at night. It was in a demographic of like older individuals who are experiencing memory problems already and cognitive decline. And that's, again, not to extrapolate and say that if you diffuse scents while you sleep, your memory is going to be superhuman. It's just on a certain number of cognitive tests that they were doing, they were better able to memorize it if they had aromatherapy on at night. And then if they smelled that scent again, that could trigger a certain memory so that they could recall the information that they learned faster. And that's actually quite interesting because the olfactory bulb where you process smell in your brain is very close to the memory centers, which is why a memory can just take you back. Like I always have this if I smell the perfume of my boyfriend when I was 15 years old, like I am back in that memory.
Is that
like
a good
it's just a thing. It's that you smell something and immediately like the memories of that person or that place or that experience just rush back. And that's because of the proximity to smell and memory centers in your brain. So yeah, would buy for sure.
Nice. I get that with L'Oreal Elvive hairspray for like dance shows that I used to do.
Yes, actually same.
And every time I smell it, I'm like, whoa, that takes me right back. And obviously these studies, you're right, you know, and they don't do that on the human. They don't give you the caveats of this was done on a
but
cognitively.
it's not a great soundbite, you know, because the sound bites that you would actually hear then is it depends. And then you would say like, does this boost memory? It depends. Does it do this? Like, it really depends. Like everything depends. You can't generalize. And that's the issue with science. And that's the issue with, you know, people who are giving you protocols. Like, it really depends. And this is why mindfulness is so important, because yes, do the protocol if you're looking for something to help you, but then also rely on your own knowledge and understanding of yourself and your awareness of yourself to see if this is actually helping you, or if you're just trying to do the most and actually you're not improving anything. So mindfulness is really important. By all means, like if you want to sleep better and you've tried everything and you want to take some supplements, try the supplements, but actually take a moment to notice if you have slept better. Right?
Treating yourself, you know, like your own experiment, basically, is, I think, a really, really powerful message.
Yeah.
Also, what I was going to say is that study, even though that study was in an older population with some cognitive decline, it could, you know, if you're a student and you want to try study with like your aromatherapy on and you don't find the noise distracting, then, you know, try it out, see how it goes. If you do find it helps, then good for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not going to do any damage, you know?
And like, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I found this protocol that's going to help me, you know, excel in all of my exams. But if it's helpful for you for whatever reason, even if it's just that it's helping you get into a relaxed state, and so you're more like receptive to the information that you're learning because you're not like thinking about 100 million different things, and you're able to focus.
You know, you're stressed about an exam, you need something to de-stress.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would buy. And with anything, like any gadgets, any devices, I would say, like, if you have the money and if you do think that it does help you, then, you know, go for it.
Nice. Okay, next we have earplugs. What do you think about earplugs?
It depends for what. Give me a scenario.
Scenario, maybe studying as a scenario. So for focus, let's say for focus.
So I would say I use earplugs that if I'm sleeping and somebody's snoring or there's like a lot of noise, like sure, I will use earplugs. But it's the same thing with meditation. People, it's easy to meditate when you're in a yoga studio. There's calm music, the lights are dim, there's aromatherapy, and there are no auditory distractions. There's no noise in your surroundings. But in real life, you're not always going to have the perfect situation. There will be distractions in the form of noise, especially if you live in London. Like, it's very noisy. You're always going to hear traffic or people walking around. Like, we don't really have the luxury of quiet so much in big cities. And I think there is something really powerful about being able to train your focus so much that you are able to drown out the distractions and the noise and the sounds. If you're hanging on to your earplugs because it's a bit of a crutch for you, I would say, like, it's fine to use, and I'm happy for anybody to use them if it feels like it helps you. But also just test yourself a little bit and try to be able to live with the noise and use that as a bit of a meditation where it's really noisy, it's really annoying. Maybe the table next to you is talking really loudly and it's like really getting to you. Try to practice non-judgment with that. Try to understand that there are noises. I can't always control my environment. I have the power, though, to feel how I want to feel and to focus on what I want to focus on. Because if you're always at the mercy of all of the distractions and you get annoyed at the littlest thing, you're not always going to have your earplugs with you. You're not always going to be able to like change the volume of something. But then again, there are people with misophonia who are very sensitive to different sounds, and it's something that you can't necessarily approach in the most rational way. Yeah. It's more of a reactive thing in the brain where certain sounds really upset you and can really trigger you. And for people like that, earplugs are a great solution. I have it sometimes with like people eating and chewing. It really, winds me up.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point, and actually reminded me of periods of my life where I found noise really difficult, and how actually that links to my own nervous system regulation. So when I was in medical school, I went the whole 4 years and I could study with my friends chatting next to me and it wouldn't necessarily distract me. Then in my final year, when my nervous system was all over the shop because I was stressed, and it was the first time I had to put on white noise whilst I was studying, because I physically, the moment someone said anything around me, that was me gone, focus gone. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you agree, but I really think that was related. When your nervous system is dysregulated, it's like it's that fight or flight mode. It's your body is on, when you're stressed, your body is on high alert.
Yeah. You're so much more sensitive to any little trigger.
Yeah. And I think actually if you get to a point where you cannot focus without maybe having all sound removed, it's maybe a point where you should, if you agree.
Everything is a sign in that sense. I actually don't love the idea of the noise cancellation because like we rely on our senses for so many different reasons. And if I'm walking through or like I'm cycling and I have my noise cancelling headphones on and I'm listening to music, there are a lot of auditory cues in my environment that I need to be paying attention to, where it's quite dangerous actually if you like cancel those out. We are supposed to be alert to certain sounds in our environments to keep us safe and protected. I understand that, especially if somebody is like really stressed, they just want to reduce all noise and all stress and all triggers all the time. But sometimes it is important to still be aware and, you know, try to function in the world that we live in. So earplugs, I would say bye.
Okay.
Bye. Overall, like good.
Yeah.
You know?
I think after this section, I'm also going to need you to give advice to the girlie who is trying to be mindful, trying to meditate, and just feels like her mind is going off track. And also we're going to have to come on to some actionable tips about focus as well.
Yes.
We've only got a couple more items left. Next, anti-stress tea. So this is peace tea. It's got chamomile, vanilla, and warming cinnamon.
Okay.
Go on.
So tea, I would say bye.
Nice.
because I think having a cup of tea can be such a mindful experience. I mean, everything can be a mindful experience. But yeah, I'd rather people drink this than some like elixir that's overpriced and targeted at like making you more focused and more mentally agile and whatever. Like it's just good old tea, right? Like have a warm cup of tea. Take a moment to notice, you know, the mug in your hands and like how warm it is and the scents that are emanating from it just, you know, before and like enjoy it while you drink it. And that can be a mindful experience and at a good price. Anything that's like a good price that can give you a bit of mindfulness in your day, I'm all for. And I feel like tea, easy win. Yeah. Basically.
Okay. Next, we've only got two more.
Okay.
Puzzles.
Ooh, I love this. Puzzles, bye.
Nice.
I think, you've been doing these. Or
I do love a Sudoku though.
Yeah. Tesco puzzles, lovely. Probably a very good price. Keeps you busy. Especially if you have a little booklet like this and you're not on your phone, you can just sit around and like have something to do that engages your brain. And I think, you know, we should never really stop doing puzzles or doing like a bit of something that's like a little bit challenging for the brain. It's very mentally stimulating. It's fun. It keeps you alert. It keeps your mind sharp. It's not gonna, you know, solve memory problems with old age if genetically that's, you know, what you're prone to or for whatever reasons. But it's a really good way to be in the present moment, because if you're trying to figure out a puzzle, again, that's time where your brain is engaged and you're not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. So easy win, I would buy.
Nice. We're going to have to come on to ways that you can protect your brain for old age a little bit later. The last buy that I wanted to come on to is you've mentioned brain supplements a couple of times. Would you buy or say bye-bye to lion's mane?
This is a good one because I feel like there is so much promise with adaptogens, all the different like mushroom blends and all of this stuff. But the science so far is mixed, I should say. Like, I wouldn't say that there is an overwhelming amount of evidence where it's like, this is going to fix you. Lion's mane is a type of mushroom that people say it helps you with focus and it helps people with ADHD. I feel a certain way about claims like this.
Okay.
But again, this is where I would say, like, you have to be mindful and understand that not everything, because it's like proven by science or not proven by science, is like the right way or the wrong way. I've tried lion's mane to manage my ADHD and it's helped me. So that could be placebo. It could be whatever. I do feel sharper and more alert sometimes when I take my lion's mane. Like, there was a period of my life where I took it, had my little mushroom coffee. I really liked it. I haven't taken it for a while now, but yeah, I know a lot of people who love it. I know a lot of people who think it doesn't do anything. Again, if it's not costing you an arm and a leg, if you actually feel like it helps you, like, go for it.
And I think we've also got to acknowledge that there's different cohorts of people who respond differently to different chemicals. Like, we know there's cohorts of people who have a completely opposite reaction to benzodiazepines. They have the reaction where it makes them, instead of having a sedative response, it makes them anxious and on edge.
Yeah.
Women with ADHD more likely to have PMDD, PMS. There are different compounds that affect people with ADHD differently. There are different compounds that affect. So I think that's important to consider.
Yeah, for sure. And then anything, like, you have to also remember that any studies that are done in food supplements, or just even diet and nutrition, like, it's notoriously a really difficult area to study because there are so many confounding factors. If you're just giving people supplements and like tracking them over a period of time, first of all, do you actually know that they've taken the supplement? You have to rely on the trust of the participant. Then in an ideal world, and this doesn't really happen, like, the people who are making these mushroom blends aren't doing these kind of studies where they're also monitoring everything that person is eating and making sure that all the participants are following the same exact diet. The only difference is that they are taking a supplement or not taking a supplement. Then it has to be double blind. So everybody actually has to take a supplement. Some people get the active ingredient, the lion's mane. Other people will be taking a supplement and it could be like a placebo. And then you have to also account for, some people are going to be taking a placebo supplement and they're going to report improved metrics or like they feel better, but that's just because they think that they're doing something that's beneficial to them. Yeah. Then you have to see, are there, in all of these people's lives over all of these weeks, is there any other stress that's happening to them? Maybe people are going through breakups. Maybe they're going through job situations. Maybe some people are exercising, some people are not exercising. Maybe somebody is somewhere in their cycle and then somebody is, somebody somewhere else in their cycle. And there's so many confounding variables that is incredibly difficult to say definitively that XYZ supplement has XYZ effect.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something really important when you were speaking about the tea. It relates to how you feel and what price you're paying, because some of these brain supplements are just, and I really, so as a fellow ADHD girly, which we'll have to come on to the focus things as people who are, inherently struggle to focus. I enjoy I have lion's mane matcha every so often. And whether it is a placebo or whether it actually helps me, I enjoy it. It's nice. I'm not paying, I'm not paying an extortionate amount of money with the promise that this is going to make my brain 10 times better,
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that a lot of the things in the wellness world, and especially supplements, they come at a very high price point already. Even higher now, because supplements used to be this like something, and like now it's part of like wellness and elevated lifestyle. So there is a huge upmark like in the pricing, and it's sold to you as, if you're not doing this, then you are not living a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So I feel like a lot of people, what I always think about is single moms who are just trying to, feed their children, put food on the table, get to their jobs, do good work, make sure that the kids are okay. They don't need to be worried about paying what some supplements, like Athletic Greens, for example, it's like an extra £100 a month for one person. You don't like, and it's marketed to you as this is going to fix all of the things that you're not getting originally from your diet. Like this is going to supplement that. This is going to like boost this, and you're going to be healthy because you're taking this. I don't like the way that it's marketed, and I don't like the way that it makes us think that we have to be spending money on these things. If you have the extra income, you have disposable income, you want to do something, you have other areas, like everything in your life is taken care of and you have time to think about what supplement should I take, fine. But don't, if you're down in the dumps and you're hardly getting by with your job and your money is not really stretching, you don't need to think about what else should I be taking in order to be healthy and like how much money do I have to spend on this. It's just not where your mind should be and your focus should be.
That's such an incredible point, and in the cost of living crisis as well. Like, it's not just an anomaly for people to be really struggling month to month. Like, it's a really, really, really common issue. And I think that, wellness is not wellness. Financial wellness is so key to wellness. If you do not, we know the implications that, your socioeconomic background has on health outcomes. If you are spending money and putting yourself out of pocket to spend on wellness products, that is not healthy.
No,
that is not healthy.
It's not.
And speaking to those women who are listening who are just getting by month to month, what are your top low cost actionable tips that they can take to look after their brain?
Yeah, I love this because like everything that I see is like, start your day with drinking this bone broth. And then I look at the biggest bone broth company that's, marketed at our demographic right now. And it's like, it is a higher price point than other bone broth that you could just get from Tesco or whatever, because it's supposed to be clean. And then it's drink your electrolytes and every single day have this little sachet of like a single waste product that's, again, more expensive than if you just like sprinkle a bit of table salt into your water. If you want electrolytes, you can do that.
Don't get me started on electrolytes. I swear to God.
But it's
every
just
single episode I'm electrolytes.
But it's just product, like it's capitalism, right? It's consumerism. It's like, buy this product and this one here, and you need 5 different supplements and 5 different products before it's even 9 a.m., right? In order for you to be healthy. We used to get by on nothing, like why all of a sudden, in order to be healthy, do we need 100 different products and supplements and like powders and all of that stuff? So I would say I have so many thoughts about this, but I would say the most effective low cost things that you can do, they're free. It's not something that you can go and buy at an online health store. It's, maybe just the way that you structure your day, getting good sleep, having time away from your screens where you're in nature and you're walking, you're moving your body, you're eating a varied diet. And I would rather somebody spend more of their money on buying a lot of different like plant-based items and a variety of different groceries and make a home-cooked meal than eating, I don't want to say badly, because I don't want to say like it's good or bad, but eating a certain way and then thinking that they can solve all of their dietary requirements still with greens powders and other supplements, because it's just not cost effective in that way. And most of the time the supplements are just going to run straight through you. You're going to be in a lot better shape if you actually eat your supplements, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. What does your daily routine look like as a neuroscientist?
I love this question. I love this question because people think, especially in the world of the Hubermans, that I have a protocol. Because I know what the science says and I know what's the best way to structure and set up your day. It depends. Like, it really depends. There are some, and it depends on what season it is or how I feel or where I am in my cycle or what I've been doing. Generally, I know from being mindful of how I feel that I feel a lot better mentally in my head when I exercise and when I eat regular meals and plant-based diet. That's how I feel the best. So I just make sure that those things, that I'm hitting those things. And also knowing myself, knowing my chronotype and when I feel the most alert and when I start to feel tired in the day. I know how I should structure my day in terms of when I should be doing creative tasks or when I should be doing more of the mundane things that I need to get done.
For those who aren't scientific, do you mind explaining what you mean by chronotype?
So chronotype is, it is your internal biological clock, and everybody has a slightly different chronotype. So this is what would make somebody a morning person versus an evening person. You can.
I was so shocked when I found out that like is genetically, can be genetically predetermined.
You can do a genetic test. I wouldn't recommend it because you can just do an online test, or if you're mindful, like if you know yourself, you probably know if you're more of a morning person.
Yeah, exactly. Just think about it.
There is like a blood test for everything these days. That's another thing that I like get really annoyed about. It's like you don't need to be doing blood tests for everything. So your chronotype, it's genetic. There are some people who are like these middle types. They can be morning people or evening people. I kind of fall into that depending on what routine I'm in. Sometimes I'm like up super early, and then sometimes like it's like shifts later on in the day. But also your chronotype can be affected by if you have ADHD, for example. So ADHD people typically have like a bedtime that's around 2 hours later than the average person, I would say, or they have more creative thoughts in the evening time.
I hate that. It's like 10 p.m. and I'm like, I need to script a video.
Yeah, but like that's why it's not fair to have, a societal structure where it's like there are so many people who think you're morally superior if you wake up early and you get all your stuff done and you go to bed at this time and whatever. I think we need to kind of move away from that a little bit. People just need to be acting in alignment with their chronotype. And a lot of the research now on depression actually shows that people who are living a life that is out of sync with their chronotype, so if they're waking up because of their jobs really early, but their chronotype is more of the late type, that discrepancy can have this, it's almost like a permanent feeling of jet lag in your body because you're not living on the internal biological clock that your body wants to live in. And so that's where some people can start to get feelings of depression, anxiety, which I think is so fascinating because typically we've always thought that that's just to do with serotonin or there's a chemical imbalance in the brain, but it can also really just be that you're living out of alignment with your biological clock.
That's incredible. And I feel like I can relate to that a lot as someone who I've never felt more, now that I'm essentially self-employed, completely self-employed, not working in a hospital, completely the only person determining what I am doing with my time. Yeah. And I've never felt more better. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because me and my brother both have ADHD, big genetic component. My mum is mad as a hatter. And like he is working a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday right now.
Miserable, probably.
I'm Kieran, we are, I'm not going to say my brother's name. Like I have tried to say to him, this is not how we will feel fulfilled. But I think it's so, regardless whether you have ADHD or not, just being able to tune in to the way that you work best. Yeah.
So my routine also like completely depends on that, and I'm able to shift. I just know that the first things to fall by the wayside if I'm not in a good place is like I try to get more work done. And so that means that I'm not going to go to the gym because I'm trying to like buy time. And that's an hour out of my day that I could be finishing work. And then the next thing is like the same with cooking and eating. And it does happen. Like I'm aware of these things and I know better than like a lot of my friends how this could affect me, and still I'm, I fall into those traps a little bit. Trying to get more work done, trying to buy time, not going to the gym, not taking care of myself, not going for my regular walks, not spending time with friends, just trying to like get everything done, and that's not good. My best routine is to actually just stick to the things that I know will support me, both in terms of my mental and my physical health, but I'm not rigid on when that needs to happen, like what time of day.
And how do you navigate that as someone who maybe, like I struggle with procrastination a lot. And I find that sometimes being strict on myself, I mean, it doesn't actually really work. It's quite hard, but how do you navigate having flexibility and being in tune with your body with also needing to get stuff done?
Yeah. That's a good question. I wish I had the answer. The last relationship that I was in, I was with somebody who's very regimental. Yeah. Wakes up at the same time, goes to the gym, eats this, does this, goes to bed at this time, and also had a 9 to 5. So it was like, we're having lunch here, we're going for a walk then. And for a few years, I mean, it was fantastic for me because I just assimilated to that routine. Yeah. And it was really good in terms of getting work done because like there was only like this is when I have to do my work, and this is when I have to go to the gym, because we're going to the gym now, we're doing this now, and the rest of the time I'm like, okay, now I can tick all the things off of my to-do list. Now, living by myself again and being fully in charge of my daily structure and my routine, like it does shift and it does fluctuate. And I do notice that there are some days where I just don't have the energy to do, especially the really boring, mundane things that I just want to put aside. For me, what works is like I put things into my calendar and I block out time. And of course, I have ADHD, I have time blindness. I don't know how long it takes me to do a thing.
Well, this is it, is when you say like, oh, I just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
I'm like, my time blindness would mean that I would go for my walk at 6 p.m. Like,
So the things that I do, and I have dogs, so I have, sometimes it's a lot easier when you have responsibility for other things than just yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, I know I have to wake up and take the dogs out. They need that, and I need to feed them.
Yeah.
And so I try to habit stack on top of the habits that I need to maintain for the health and safety of my dogs.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for me to take care of somebody else than it is to take care of myself sometimes, because I just don't have the motivation always. So the dogs have really helped me. I wake up, they need to go out. That's my walk. That's great for me as well. And then they get fed, and as they get fed, like I will try to also have breakfast.
Good.
You know?
Good.
There are certain things that I know if I get the gym out of the way first thing in the morning, then I feel free to go about the rest of my day. If I wait to go to the gym in the evening, then things will just start falling on top of me. So there are certain things, and I think being mindful is, because there's no scientific protocol that's going to work for everyone and anyone. Just being mindful about like what works for you or what mood you're in. If you've eaten a certain way, if you've done this, if you spend time with these people, I think that can give you so much of an indication of how to set yourself up for success. And the thing that I will say also about scheduling things, if you do have time blindness, I schedule things into my calendar in the form of a to-do list, and I'll block out like an hour to do some of the mundane things. I will do it, and I will try really hard to just focus on that one task. But then once I've done it, I will update the calendar slot to reflect the amount of time that it's actually taken me to do that thing. And so now I have a bit of an indication of like, oh, if I need to like run through my emails or do this and this, it usually takes me this amount of time.
That's something really, really useful that I will take away, because I have no concept of how long tasks actually take.
Even like to get ready. I don't know how long it takes me to get ready.
Yeah.
Depends. But now I put it in my I'll put it in my calendar. I'll just block out some time to get ready, and I'll block out everything that I have to do, because like those little things add up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even have just like a bit of time where it's just like dilly-dallying, right? Like
that's incredible, and I'm going to take that away tomorrow. Habit stacking, which is something that's completely changed my life in terms of building positive habits. But first, I do need to get you to explain neuroplasticity, because I promised I'd.
Yes. So we used to think that the brain was just as it is, like your brain can't change.
Yeah.
And there are certain structures in your brain, like your prefrontal cortex, the most recently developed part of the brain, that those structures were related to certain functions. And generally, like the front of your brain, most recently developed part would be executive functioning, like things that we didn't really have to do in the past.
And I always used to get confused by what executive functioning is. I kind of explain that sometimes as like the part of your brain that stops you from doing silly stuff. The part of your brain
thinking ahead in the future, being able to predict, is something going to, like, what is the outcome going to be? It's like if you're starting a ice cream company, it is the ability to, without having to actually physically do it, know that the fried onion flavored ice cream is not going to be a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, like that.
I love that example. I love that example.
Thinking strategically, planning ahead, which is the most recently developed part of the brain, because typically we used to just do what we needed to do and react to a certain situation. Like the typical example is, and I need to find new examples, because I don't love whenever I hear this. It's like, oh, you're being chased by a lion.
Yeah. The classic.
Yeah, exactly. The classics.
But I wonder how many people 2,000 years ago actually had to run away from a lion, you know? And for people in 2025 to be using that as every example of the primitive part of our brain.
Exactly. But then, of course, like when we settled and we're like, hunting and gathering and like planning food reserves, I guess, for the future, like that's where that kind of starts to come in, is like being able to estimate and plan and predict, or like rainy season's coming, like maybe we should gather XYZ now so that we have enough to like cover us over this period. So yeah, just like strategic kind of thinking. But we used to think that the brain had all these different areas, one related to sounds, one related to sights, one related to movement, and that they all functioned independently. Obviously, now we learn that the brain is, we like to say the brain is plastic. Obviously, it's not made out of plastic, just that it's malleable, that you can mold and shape it. I think that's a really interesting thing for people to just be aware of, is that the things that you do day in, day out, it's just the process of learning new things. I mean, if you, I don't know, let's say you want to learn Swedish. Do you speak Swedish? No, exactly. So there is no part of your brain that has any representation for the Swedish language, maybe even the Swedish alphabet. But as soon as you start to learn Swedish and you start going to classes and you start to practice it, those neurons that are firing together, they start wiring together. And the more that you practice, the stronger that wiring becomes.
I think a really good explanation I've heard before is like meeting up with a friend for the first time that you've never met, and then you meet up with them for a second time, and actually in most friendships, the more you meet up with someone, that bond gets like stronger.
Yeah.
And it's like those connections.
And the communication is faster and easier and quicker, and like you know each other.
Yeah.
Whereas like the first time you meet up, it's like, oh, like what do
are
we talk
you?
about?
Yeah.
It's like a bit weird, a bit awkward. But basically what happens with connections that you then use a lot is a process called myelination, which is there's like a fatty layer that starts to form around the neurons, which means that instead of the electrical signal traveling through the neuron to the next one, it now jumps from one to the next. So the communication just happens that much quicker. Yeah, this is the process by which your brain learns new things and changes. And so you can create now, because you've practiced, you've gone to a lot of Swedish lessons, you've been to Sweden, you've been like speaking the language, writing the language. That now happens fast, and before you know it, you speak Swedish. And that was an area of your brain, or those were connections that previously weren't there. So you've changed your brain. Equally, things that you stop doing, will those connections, because they're not in use, will start dying. And that's just because the brain it wants to be really efficient. So anything that's not in use, slowly those connections, they just start dying down. And
like the friend you haven't WhatsApped back.
The friend that you haven't WhatsApped, like the fizzler, right?
Yeah.
And also the language that you learned as a kid that you now haven't spoken in 15 years. You try to speak it again, you're like, oh, it's not there the way that it used to be. The wonderful thing is that this works also for meditation. And one of the big things that I hear is meditation, it just doesn't work. My brain is too distracted. I can't do it. Yeah, because it's a new skill. You've never done it before. But the more that you practice, the easier it will get. And all of a sudden, after a certain amount of time, and some of the studies will say that these structural changes in the brain occur after around 8 weeks of 20 minutes of meditation every day. And again, that's not to say that that should be your protocol. That's just because the workshops that you do, like mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which is a program that takes 8 weeks, and that's what it kind of requires you to do. And they did studies within this, and they did show that, after the end of that, you've actually changed the shape of your brain. There are now new areas that have been formed. There's new connections between areas. One of the main things that you see is better connectivity between the emotional reactive part of the brain and your prefrontal cortex, like the thinking, planning ahead part of your brain. And that's so important, because what that means is that something happens that you usually would have an immediate emotional trigger to, and you would react in a negative way. You would shout at somebody or do something that you might later regret. Now, because you've meditated, you have more connections between that reactive part and the part of your brain which is like, oh, should I, like, this is obviously telling me something. It doesn't feel good, but like maybe the best thing is not to like hit someone. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing is to just think about, what is this emotion telling me? How do I, like, why do I feel sad? Okay, because this person has crossed a boundary. This person has upset me. And now I can say to that person, hey, like, that wasn't really cool when you did that.
But in a rational way.
Yeah. And so you're improving communication. You're also being able to regulate your cortisol because you're not just at the mercy of everything that happens to you.
Yeah.
You're able to just think and reflect and have better relationships with people, understand people better, understand yourself better. Sometimes things happen and you have an emotional response and it's not because something bad has happened. It's just because you're triggered for whatever reason. And now you're like, I'm triggered and like, I don't know. And now it's information. It's telling me something. It's telling me that I don't like being around people who speak this way. I don't like being in scenarios where I feel on edge. Like, you can then, from that, change the way that you live your life, change the people that you surround yourself with, change the way that you communicate with people, also set the standard for how somebody communicates with you. Everything just gets better. But like, again, that is a change that you need to make in your brain. And that doesn't happen immediately.
You touched on one of the most common complaints I hear a lot when people try meditation, and that was me included. That they just get bored, they just get distracted. And also I think when we think about meditation, too often we focus on the immediate outcome. Like with everything in this world, we're focused on what can I get immediately. And this idea that we meditate and it just makes us calmer. But
yes.
Like,
but that's like the worst, that was like, I think the worst marketing for meditation is that it is something just to make you relaxed and calm. And I think it's the same for yoga. These are not practices that are just going to make you relaxed. That could be a side effect, but there are so many other benefits to meditation. And most likely people, and I know this because I've worked in startups to do with meditation. So like we have the data on this, is like people come to meditation because they are stressed and they want a way to relax or shut off their brain, or they want to sleep better. So that is the entry point. But actually the first time that you meditate, like the first time that you might go to a Swedish lesson, you're not going to learn Swedish.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to understand what people are telling you all of a sudden. And the first time that you do a meditation, you might not actually be relaxed because for the first time, you're so aware of just how clouded your brain is, just how distracted you are. And it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be annoying and you're going to want to give up and you're going to have the reaction that everybody has. It's like, this just doesn't work for me. I just can't do it. And like, I hate this and I don't feel relaxed and I feel frustrated and I'm annoyed at myself and everything sucks.
I'm so glad you've said that, because I think that was exactly my experience. The first time I meditated, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
This is supposed to make me feel calm.
Yeah.
I am left alone with my thoughts for the first time. This is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And especially at the point when I started meditating, I was not in a good place emotionally.
That's also the thing, is that you come to these things when it's too late.
Yeah.
You come to, like, you find these techniques and these methods. People go to therapy when they're in the middle of something.
Yeah.
People go to meditation when they're like in the middle of a burnout or like a breakdown. And like, I'm glad that you found it, but it would have been a lot better for you if you could have developed that skill, formed those new connections in your brain, created those pathways that now if something happens, you can already rely on it versus having to build it at the same time as you're already struggling through something else in your life.
It's like eating an apple the day after you've had a heart attack.
Yeah, exactly.
The apple would have been great 20 years ago,
Yeah.
What is your personal meditation routine? And what would you recommend would be the meditation routine for someone who is new to meditation? Because I think, like a 40-minute complete silence might be a bit much.
Bit much. Yeah, definitely a bit much. Again, this is difficult because I love to give like personal advice to people depending on, what I know about them. But I think the most general thing that should help most people is just relying on your senses.
Okay.
Because that's something that everybody can understand. Yeah, first, like, look around to see, is there something that you can see in your environment? If you're in an environment that you're in a lot of the time, like your house or your bedroom, see if you can find something new or something interesting. Then again, with the sounds, close your eyes and notice a sound in your environment. And it could be the sound of your breathing, potentially. It could be the sound of the clothes, like as you're moving, like the sound that your clothes are making. Then you're relying on your sense of touch, like even just picking up like the stress ball that you had and just touching it and just paying attention, like, of the weight of the object or how it feels, like what the material feels like. And if you have nothing to hand, just touch your jeans or become aware of the sense of your weight in the chair and all of the parts of your body that are in contact with the chair. And I think touch is a great one as well, because it's one of the most omnipresent senses that we drown out the most, because if you're always aware of everything that's touching you, you get so overwhelmed and overstimulated. Smell is a great one. That's why I think aromatherapy is great. Having a tea, just paying attention to the smells in your environment when you're cooking, just taking a moment to smell the food, just letting that just bring you a little bit closer to the present moment. And the hardest one is taste. If you're just, like if you're just here now and you're trying to think about like, what does my mouth taste like? It's kind of difficult because again, we're just used to the taste of our mouth. But if you eat food, just taking a moment to really pay attention to the taste and the texture of the food. And the reason why I think that these kind of practices are so great is because it doesn't ask you to take any time out of your day to meditate. You don't need to sit down and set a timer for 20 minutes. You're just paying more attention to the things that you are already doing. And I think we're already so overwhelmed with like all of these things that we need to do and exercise and cook and eat and this and that. You don't want to add another thing to somebody's list of things that they need to do, or like wake up in the morning and set your timer for 20 minutes and do a meditation. Like people are not going to stick to that. So I feel like mindfulness is a great entryway to meditation. And just for those who aren't aware, I would say the distinction is meditation is more of the pure skill of, yes, sitting down and closing your eyes and focusing on your breathing and seeing it as more of this practice where you're really honing in your focus and noticing distractions and then coming back to paying attention to your breath or whatever your meditation is. And mindfulness is the skill that you develop, I think, alongside meditation. So somebody who meditates a lot, strict meditation, will become more mindful in their everyday life because they'll just be a little bit more present and be able to eliminate distractions because they've already trained their brains to do that. But I think for somebody starting out, just practicing mindfulness is a really great way to slowly slow down the brain and just spend a little bit more time in the here and now.
We've still got to come on to habit stacking, some tips to protect your brain for old age. But first, we've got a section called Is It Real or Real, as in like Instagram Reel, where I'm going to show you a short piece of social media content. And I just want to hear your thoughts. Because there tends to be a lot of noise on social media. And it's nice to be able to get some expert voices to give their opinions.
You're addicted to cheap dopamine and it's killing your motivation. Welcome back to Anti-Brain Rot, the series where I break down psychological and philosophical facts so you can be hot and educated instead of having your brain fried. Dopamine is the chemical in your brain that makes you seek rewards. But here's the thing. It doesn't give you motivation, it gives you cravings. Scrolling, binge watching, checking your notifications, each of these things gives you dopamine hits without actual effort, and that's what we call cheap dopamine. And why is that a problem? Over time, your brain will get so used to these instant hits of pleasure with zero effort that it will stop caring about actual hard stuff. And that's why things like reading, working out, or learning something can feel like too much for you, and it's hard for you to focus. Because your brain is fried. So, maybe today, do one thing that gives you a delayed reward. Go for a walk, write something, or clean your space. It will feel uncomfortable at first, maybe very slow, because you don't get these instant hits of pleasure. But keep doing it to get used to it again. I will see you in the next episode. I love you so much. Bye!
Delayed reward is definitely like a core concept in psychology, and it's something that you learn about. There are even studies that show that children who are able to delay rewards perform better in IQ tests later on in life. So one of the famous studies is this like mushroom experiment, a marshmallow experiment. You've heard of this?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have marshmallows in the room, and like the kids come in. The guy's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the room. If you don't eat the marshmallow in the time that I'm gone, I'll give you two by the time that I come back.
Yeah.
And obviously, like at different ages, like kids aren't really able, like they just want the reward immediately. So then you have, it's really cute when you watch the videos, you have kids who go in and as soon as the adult leaves the room, they eat the marshmallow. But then you have kids who are able to delay the reward and not seek that instant gratification because they know that when the person comes back, when the adult comes back, they'll get double the marshmallows. And so psychologists in the past, like, really loved this concept of delayed gratification. And I think it is a really good skill to learn because not everything will come easily to you. And being able to know that you just really have to push and persevere. You might not see the rewards immediately, but that's not a sign to stop and give up, is a really good life lesson in general. But separately, I think one of the things that I always hear on social media is that, like, these instant dopamine hits, they deplete your dopamine.
I find the conversations around dopamine on social media really interesting because a lot of them are not scientifically.
No, it's not, right?
Not scientifically.
It's like pop science. Like,
And on one hand, I'm like, okay, you're making it more easily digestible.
I understand, but it's kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's not that the dopamine is depleted. It's just that you're used to it. And so, like, the trigger is just always kind of going off, and it does become harder for you to have that trigger by something new. And so it's the whole principle on, like, from gambling and things like that. It's just, your sensitivity to the dopamine hit just is a little bit lower, I would say. I think in general, yes, it is a good idea to practice delayed gratification, to not always, like, be looking for the next thing, which is something that mindfulness, of course, like, helps you with. It's just being able to be happy and comfortable in the present moment and not judging something as good or bad and just letting things be. I think it's a really good skill because you're just able to regulate your emotion and just make sure that you're not having these, like, highs and lows throughout the day, or that you're seeking for the next thing. You're just a lot more comfortable just being. And that is a sign of a very stable, regulated person. Yeah. The last thing that I would say, like, a misconception that I hear is that people say that the dopamine is, like, the reward. Yeah. But dopamine is actually released in anticipation of a reward versus when you get the reward itself. So there are studies that show that there's a really cool study that they did where planning a holiday gave people a lot more joy and dopamine than actually going on the holiday. Yeah. So it's you planning and predicting and anticipating a future reward. That's where the dopamine is released. And that's a good thing because it means that you don't have to, like, do the thing, get the next hit, whatever. Just pay more attention to the excitement that the imminent reward is bringing you. And one thing that you can do if you want to have that, like, fun, eager excitement in your day is to just make a list. Like, some people do this in the morning. You can wake up and look out for things that you are looking forward to in your day. So that can give you a bit of a dopamine release that's not this, like, excessive, like, constant, because the issue is really just having it, like, constantly. But being a little bit more intentional with it, I think, is a good thing.
I also think it's what the dopamine is attached to, right? Yeah. So it's like when it's attached to looking forward to things in your day, it's what makes you happy. Whereas when it's attached to social media, where sometimes on social media there are some messages about the way you look that may not be positive, or some messages, there might be misinformation, there might be, there's things on social media that might be doing damage in other ways that isn't dopamine related, but the dopamine is sort of attached, which keeps you coming back. Yeah. Whereas when, like, what I kind of don't like about the narrative about dopamine on social media is dopamine is this big bad monster. Yeah. When, like, dopamine
is a good thing.
Yeah. It's our motivation.
It's your motivation. Yeah. It makes you, like, it gets you up and gets you motivated and gets you, like, to do the thing that you need to do. There is a purpose for all of these things, and I think so often we're just like, oh, this is so bad, I need to do a dopamine detox. Yeah. No, you don't. No, like, you don't need to just be this, like, passive person in order to be, like, holier than God. You just need to, manage the things that you're paying attention to.
Yeah. And that should be your own life. Like, looking forward to things in your own life and getting,
things that are meaningful to you.
Yeah, I love that. The next thing I want to come on to is habit stacking. Yeah. It kind of leads on from dopamine-ish, I guess. What is habit stacking? How do you implement it? And what is habit stacking? And how does it relate to what happens in the brain when you habit stack? How do you implement habit stacking in your own life?
Okay, so habit stacking is, like, this big concept that a lot of the people who are, like, trying to help you get better and do more on social media will be like, habit stack this, habit stack that. Like, I wouldn't say that it's something that I rely on, like, super heavily. Habit stacking is basically just, if there's a habit of something that you do, stacking something on top of that you have to do, doing those two things together so that it's not as hard for you to do the thing that you have to do because it's now linked with the thing that you're already doing. It's more of just a question of effort, like mental effort. And I think with people with ADHD, like there are some things that really shouldn't require so much effort, but for some reason, like they're just tedious and you don't want to do them. And so stacking them on top of something that you already do in your day is a good way to just like get that out the way. But it could be if you get out of bed, and for me, the first thing that I do is like I go and I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
But as I brush my teeth, I might do something like boil a kettle and like have a tea. The thing that I'm already doing something else that I need to do. So maybe while I'm brushing my teeth, I'll also like scroll through and like check my emails, because that's something that sometimes I avoid doing because I'm like a bit avoidant in that sense. Like if I'm expecting an email that I'm not really looking forward to.
Yeah.
I kind of get that out the way because I'm brushing my teeth and I'm already in that moment. I'm focusing on brushing my teeth. So I don't know if this is a good example, but it takes that emotional, like that negative emotion out of it for me, because I'm checking to see if this email has come through, if it's good news or bad news. But I'm also like brushing my teeth, and I know that when I brush my teeth, like those two things are done.
Yeah.
I don't now have to like brush my teeth and like set myself up and go to my computer and sit down and pay like full attention to this thing that's gonna stress me out. People do it with, I mean, the most popular thing that I see is like people doing this like with supplements and things like that. They're like, okay, first thing in the morning, drink a glass of water, but then habit stack it with loading your water with electrolytes and taking this supplement. And so it's kind of a way in which to, take all the 100 supplements that I'm telling you to take, but it's not like an extra task because you're doing it while you're drinking your water. So people use it in different ways. I would just say, if there's something that you're avoiding that you don't like to do, try to stick it onto something that you already do.
Yeah.
And then that can be like your main focus.
Yeah. The two main ones that kind of spring to mind when I think
you probably have a better example.
No.
Like
the two main ones that come to my mind is like ADHD life, like to sit down every morning at my desk. The first thing I do is not sit down at my desk because I do not want to sit down at my desk and start working. The first thing I do is I make myself a hot drink.
Yeah.
I have my mindful moment. I take pleasure in making my hot drink. I'm looking forward to my first coffee of the morning. I cannot bloody wait. My first matcha of the morning. I'm so excited. I make my milk all nice and creamy. I'm so looking forward to that cup of tea, coffee, matcha, whatever. And then my muscle memory, because I've stacked it so many times with the good thing of making my hot drink sitting down at my desk.
Yeah, okay, so because I thought probably like my emails is a bad example because like, do people really get anxious in their emails? Like I do.
ADHD.
But I think that is the thing. I think it is. Yeah, okay, so that's a good example.
Like the pleasure to the pain, I guess, like of getting started with working. The other example that springs to my mind is the tube one.
Yeah.
Like the being on the tube and I'm bored. So how do I fill that boredom?
Yeah.
Being mindful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm something that I struggle to be mindful a lot of the time. And it's paired with that action of being on the tube. And suddenly, that neuroplasticity, those connections get stronger.
Yeah, because so you definitely, notice the benefits of being mindful.
Yeah.
Yet you wouldn't necessarily want to take out 20 minutes of your day to sit at home and practice mindfulness. So you're habit stacking that onto like the journey that you're already taking, where you already don't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to use those 20 minutes to be mindful, and that's the habit that I know is good for me. And like this is a time where I can do that.
Yeah, and it fits into your day. Then you're not using up. You're not adding. Like what you said, it's so much more difficult when you think I've got to add on an extra 20 minutes into my already stressed life.
Busy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to speak about is, so this is a community question that we got. What are the most damaging long-term habits or lifestyle factors that harm the brain and increase the risk of diseases like Alzheimer's? And then my added thing on would be, okay, that's the bad things that we can do. What are the good things that we can do?
I feel like we're in England, people aren't going to love this.
Oh no. You're going to say booze, aren't you?
Yeah.
How did I know? But you know, we had Millie Gooch on 2
Yes,
episodes.
I love Millie.
She's brilliant. And you know what? Like, I actually think the audience is primed to be told, cut down your booze.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever. But during my master's, I was working with this amazing, fantastic neuropsychopharmacologist, Professor David Nutt. He is incredible. And his work looks at the effect of different substances on the brain. And so I don't know if this is still relevant because that was years ago, but he would always say that if alcohol were to be discovered today, the legal amount that we would be able to have, this is based on how we measure like toxicology of certain substances, would be the equivalent of half a glass of wine per year.
Oh my God.
That is how detrimental it is to the brain and body. And there used to be a lot of science that's like, there are certain things that are in red wine, like from the grape or whatever. I say it wrong. It's not resveratrol, but that's how I say it. But there are certain things that are actually, it's got a lot of antioxidants and da-da-da. And so there was a bit of that kind of messaging back in the day, like boomer generation.
The 1 glass of red wine a day is good for you.
It's good for you. It's good for your health. It's good for your heart. And that's all bullshit. Like it's not like that's all been debunked. And then there's people who love to say like everything in moderation, but like, okay, like I think when you know the effects of certain substances like on your brain, I would say like drugs and alcohol, it's very detrimental to the brain. But then again, it depends. Like there are some people who are very resistant to certain things, and that could be genetic, that could be whatever. Like there are people who drink their whole lives and like never develop any neurodegenerative diseases, you know?
And I think the issue is, so like my nana has smoked a silly amounts of cigarettes her entire life. I went round to my nana's house before I was going round to her friends for drinks, and she said, "Do you want a coffee?" And my nana does an Irish coffee. So me and my boyfriend's a big man, and me and my boyfriend said, "Oh yeah, we'll have an Irish coffee before we go and meet our friends for drinks." My nana makes us this Irish coffee. We didn't see how much whiskey she put in it. Me and my boyfriend, we drink our Irish coffee and we're walking to my friend's house, and I look at my boyfriend, I'm like, are you drunk? And he was like, I'm drunk. And I was like, yeah, I'm drunk as well. From my nana's little Irish coffee, my nana is a functioning alcoholic. She gets through half a bottle of whiskey every 2 days. Yeah. She's in her 80s. She lives
fine,
alone. Yeah.
right?
And I think the issue is these people who are freaks of nature, to be completely honest.
They're the issue.
Yeah, but they are put on a pedestal. It's like, oh, well, they smoked all their life. They are fine. They drank all their life. They are fine. I have seen people have limbs amputated because of their smoking. Do not use these people as an example.
And this is where like the wellness Instagram and TikTok really get you, because you will change your mind because of somebody else's sob story or somebody else's story of success. And they're like, well, I was drinking. Like, well, I know this person who took this like experimental mushroom and like healed and reversed their cancer. Even if you see all of the studies that show like that can't happen, that one story is going to like pull at your heartstrings, and it's going to make you think, especially if you're in a space where you're desperate for a solution, why not just try it? And then you're going to go and buy all of the supplements that they're selling on their page with all of their discount codes, and they're profiting off of you, and you're going to feel like you're doing something good because you're finally taking control of your health, and because like the medical system doesn't know what they're doing and they haven't even tried these supplements. And that is the loophole that you cannot get yourself in. So like one thing that I would say to everybody who does get a little bit caught up in the world of wellness and like looking for like what ways can I have a healthier brain, healthier body, a healthier life, boost my memory, boost my cognitive abilities, is if somebody is telling you a story and it is a personal anecdote of somebody that you don't know and it hasn't been scientifically tested, and the scientific consensus goes against what this person is saying, and they're like, science doesn't want you to know this, big pharma doesn't want you to know this, that is probably a red flag. But it's so powerful because
we don't connect with facts, we connect with emotion.
Stories.
We're human beings. Like you say 5 in 10, 2 in this percent, we don't connect with that. You say that this supplement has changed my life as one person. Immediately as a human being, we're like,
it could change my life.
Money.
Absolutely. And there's always going to be people who are freaks of nature, and there's always going to be the opposite. My granddad died from lung cancer, and he went for walks every day, never drank, never smoked, super healthy life. And then there's people that I know who are like chain smoking for years and years and years, and they're healthy.
My nana, and she's nowhere. She's not even near, like, you know, she's kicking away. And but I think you're so right. We need to move away from these one individual stories. These, you know, horror. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart every single time in a hospital when you see people who've lived perfectly right their entire lives, and it feels so unfair. But we have to get away from that and focus on what the scientific consensus is. And I guess scientific consensus, alcohol.
And and the reason that I would say alcohol as opposed to like other things, because there's other things that can obviously affect your brain health, but alcohol is something that is socially acceptable. And is very culturally relevant. And it is more relatable than other things. Like I could talk about head trauma, right? Like I could talk about so many different things, but alcohol is just something that we've all for the most part dealt with in ways, and so limiting that I think is a really great start.
Would you if you were to have a son, would you let them play rugby or American football?
It's difficult because I would. That is, I guess that's like a parenting thing. Like obviously I would want them to do whatever makes them happy. I would be very wary of anything where there is a high chance of head trauma and stuff like that. But then again, who am I to say that you can't play rugby or American football, but now you could go for a walk and hit your head and have a head, like you can't protect someone against everything.
And I guess balancing the benefits of exercise on your brain health.
It is like, what risk are you also willing to take?
Anything else bad damaging habits for long-term brain health?
Again, this is also why I say alcohol, is because alcohol really affects your sleep and your ability to get deep sleep. But in general, sleep as a whole is just so important, because as you're sleeping, your glymphatic system, which is like the lymphatic system, but for your brain, is clearing out any waste products and it's cleaning your brain. That is really important for brain health and function. You need to sleep. You need to get good sleep. That's going to control everything from how many calories you consume, the types of food that you're drawn to. You're more drawn to fatty foods and high sugar if you are sleep deprived. Even the hormones in your body will it will just change depending on if you've slept or if you haven't slept. Your relationships and the way that you are emotionally reactive, like that changes. Everybody knows the feeling of, not getting adequate sleep, and then somebody says something and then you react in a really negative way, or you're just grumpy or moody, or you're not thinking properly and you make more mistakes the next day. And for me, I really notice it when I don't sleep well. That affects me wanting to go to the gym in the morning. Then that affects me on so many other levels afterwards. It affects the quality of the work that I do. I'm more prone to making mistakes. I'm more emotionally reactive. I'm more upset if something doesn't pan out the way that I want it to pan out. And then it's harder for me to just power through and overcome and continue tackling this project. Instead, I might feel like, I'm just going to give up and give myself a day off or whatever. So I feel like sleep is up there for me.
Nice. And then conversely, we've spoken about sleep, we've spoken about mindfulness. Are there any other tips that you'd recommend, good tips to reduce someone's risk?
Exercise is a big one. Exercise and diet, just making sure that you're eating a very and again, the same point applies to diet. It's very difficult to draw super rigorous conclusions from a lot of the studies that are done in the dietary field, because there's so many confounding variables, like omega-3s, fatty acids. A varied diet, more plant forward, is going to be really good for your brain health.
Nice. Fab. This is another community question which draws on from your expertise, lived expertise. Unpopular but effective ways to help ADHD and the impact of ADHD on brain health.
Yeah. So with stuff like that, I'm not well versed in the research, and also the research is emerging, especially differences for women. Most research is still emerging.
ADHD in women is just a whole kettle of fish in itself.
For me, it's all personal experience. And it's something that I'm very much learning as I go. I definitely notice that my symptoms at certain stages in my cycle are really bad.
Vastly, grossly different.
Yeah, incredibly different. I think having been able to practice mindfulness and meditation, I have more of an awareness of how I am and what I need during different stages. And I know that there are times where I need to withdraw and remove myself from social situations and really fill up my cup by like spending a lot of time alone and being able to think and focus on the things that I want to think about. Then there are other times where I know that I could use a bit of motivation from other people. So sometimes if I have a lot of work that I need to do that I'm really avoiding, I have an accountability partner to do those things with. So just sometimes like I have, like if I need to clean the house, like there's two ways mostly that gets done.
Yeah.
The first way is somebody's coming over for dinner.
Yes. Yes.
I'm quite a tidy person, but like the level of like cleanliness that I want, or just like getting a kick up butt to like be a little bit more tidy, is somebody coming into my space. I hate the idea of somebody like seeing my space lived in. I just can't. Like, I just feel so uncomfortable. I would say having somebody on the phone that I'm FaceTiming and like doing things around the house. It's more just like putting clothes away.
Yeah.
Or like folding the laundry.
Yeah, no, like that's body doubling is me and my best friend's got ADHD as well. Shock. Every time I go home, we do our errands together because these are these errands that we've just been piling up until we see each other and we're like, right, we're having an errand day. Where because it's the only time we do it is where we are accountable to each other. So I think having like a body double, having an accountability partner. So helpful. And then sometimes like if I just know that it's one of those days where like the hours could just pass by and I'm not really staying on top of the things that I need to do, I do just go down to the co-working space. And just seeing other people doing stuff, I'm like, I should probably do stuff. You're in that environment.
Exactly. But there are some like smaller things that I've really noticed. For me, I like to be at home. I feel very happy and comfortable at home, nobody in my space. It's almost like if I need to leave the house multiple times in a day, like it really bugs me. I like to go out one time, do all the things that I need to do, and then come back and then feel like, okay, like that was the outside world, like I'm back here now. But if I ever do need to come back home and then go out again, especially if I have to go out to do something that I don't want to do, I'll come home, maybe keep my shoes on. It's just like the little steps that you have to take, or like not put my jacket away, because the idea of going home, taking my shoes off, like putting everything away, and then getting ready to go out, there's such a big barrier to that. I know it sounds ridiculous to people who don't relate to this,
but there's a
but it's
term
like
for
putting
it.
my shoes back on, like after I've just untied them, like tying my shoes again. I like or I do a lot of stuff in flip-flops or my Birkenstocks.
Nice. Hard relate. And it's called like context switching. Like I think people with ADHD, they do struggle with that change in environments, and I can, oh my god, it's the when I get in, if I need to do something, I'm not sitting down on the sofa. Because if I sit down on the sofa,
nothing's gonna happen.
No, it's chill time
just
from
do
now
it
on.
straight away. It's now, like that, and that's kind of like how my brain works as well. It's like either I do something now or never.
Yeah. Hard relate on that one, unfortunately. Okay, so we've been asking every guest this question. It's a very important question. Anne-Sophie, what do you wish every woman knew by the time she was 25?
If I could shake a woman and tell her, and I think we're moving away from this a little bit already. Like I can see it in the younger generations, like their priorities have changed and shifted. But like for any woman who's still like at that stage, focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Like you just need to get your life in order, and like you don't need to be the perfect girlfriend for a guy. You don't need to like be kind and sweet and do everything for somebody else. Do those things for you. I want more women to be useless to guys. Like if you're in a heterosexual relationship, I think there is so much messaging around being the caretaker and women being socialized to do everything and take care of things, and like in a lot of situations like parent their partners. Yes, it's very heteronormative, but like I am talking about like those kind of relationships. So much power and freedom and joy and happiness comes when you're able to let go of that messaging and understand that you have so much more to give and to offer, and you're so much more attractive to everyone and valuable in life when you are focused on yourself. And that's not in a selfish or individualistic way, but every person has something special and unique to give, and it is your job to nurture that and figure out what that is, because then you will come from a place of being able to share that wisdom, that knowledge, and that unique ability or talent that you have. But you won't ever discover that if you're not nurturing that and if you're looking to take care of everybody else around you first. And that's not to say that taking care of other people is not good. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's honorable. I think you definitely should always make sure that you're giving your extra time and energy to those around you and nurturing your friendships and your relationships and your family. But you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to really make sure that you're okay first, because nobody else is going to make sure that you're okay. So once you have yourself sorted, then, you know, whatever is extra, that is yours to give to other people.
I love that. And I also think so much of what you've touched on is tuning into yourself. And actually, as women, we're so often taught to tune into everyone else around us.
Everyone else, yeah.
The emotions of partners, the emotions of family, like we are taught to be these caregivers, and we tune out our own, what we need.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really, really, really powerful lesson. And I just want to say a huge, huge, huge thank you for coming on. There's so many really important lessons I think everyone will be able to take away and implement in their own life today. So if there's one thing, all the girlies listening, if they do one thing, it's have that mindful moment.
Yeah.
And that's something, you can literally do so from starting from today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really wonderful. Thank you.
Yay.